Hi MJ, hope you're doing well. I wanted to, with this home exercise video, I wanted to go over just a few of the principles of Pilates that I want to start with, that you can start practicing as we will eventually start meeting for a little bit more Pilates training and work. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was a little bit of the breath work that we utilize in Pilates. And the breath is most often in through the nose and out through the mouth. And we utilize what's called a costal breathing in Pilates, which is really trying to utilize the mobility of the rib cage with our breath and the movement and mobility of the rib cage with the breath versus just a straight kind of belly diaphragm breath such as prompted in yoga. The reason for that rib cage expansion is we're able to keep a little bit of abdominal activity while we're still getting that really full, nice, expansive breath. So my image for you is an umbrella, and an umbrella opens 360 degrees in diameter. So one of the first exercises that I want you to practice is maybe placing your hands around your rib cage at different points, and you're going to take a breath in and imagine that umbrella as you open and fully expand the rib cage, and breath out. Breath in and breath out. I don't want you to feel that you have to overbreathe because there's not a lot of activity going on, but keeping that image in mind and just seeing if you can open up and allow the breath to enter into and move all aspects of the rib cage, once again 360 degrees. I'd say practice that for a good minute to 2 minutes. If you start to feel dizziness, anything like that, just take a couple just regular natural breaths. But it's important to get that movement and mobility. And just noting that we've got just postural changes and possibly a little bit of curvature of the spine, that a little bit of a scoliosis, there are probably going to be areas of your rib cage that are a little tougher to really try to get to move and expand. So that's going to be an important part of our practice with you laying on your back trying this breath pattern, with you sitting trying this breath pattern, laying on either side as well as on your stomach. So it's a good practice to maybe try in different positions. So the next fundamental or principle that I'd like you to focus on until we meet physically or virtually is the principle of spinal or axial elongation. We've been doing some exercises, the wall slides at the wall, where we think of keeping the pelvis, the ribs, and working towards the head against the wall. So the idea here is with your spine, if you can think of the bones of your spine, and in between the vertebra, those bony segments, the discs are almost like little tires, and you're going to start to try to pump up and fill up those tires with air. So the idea is, and I'm going to take a side view on this one, the idea is, of course, sometimes after gravity has hit us, we may have this sense of kind of compressing those bony landmarks, those discs. The idea is, can we lengthen, can we pump up and elongate the spine? So the idea or the image that you're pumping up a tire. So even the I should say the audio image of feeling the tires kind of pump up and expand with air. So I want you to avoid extending or a military position, but I want you to think more of elongating, reaching, filling up the discs with air. So can I practice that sense of decompressing the spine, lengthening the spine, but I don't want to feel tension in my rib cage area, my lumbar area. So can I elongate, can I decompress without feeling that I'm rigid? So that's the second principle that I want you to practice. So the first one is breath for about a minute or so, and then I want you to maybe even get in front of a mirror and think of elongating the spine. with the image of pumping up some tires, those discs in between the bony landmarks or the bony vertebra. And then the third principle is the idea of dissociation, of being able to, for instance, move the lower extremity without the spine doing a lot of movement. So this last one, I will ask you to be on the floor. Or excuse me, I say on the floor, but it can be done on the bed, it can be done on any kind of raised surface, but I will ask you to lie down. So you'll rest on your back. We want to allow the pelvis, the ribs, as much as you can, the shoulder joint or the kind of collarbone area, shoulder girdle I should say, and the head and the neck to rest on the mat. So I want you to feel fully supported. You're not gripping or holding, but you can let everything rest down. My knees are bent. What I'll ask you to do is you're going to start by taking the left leg and begin to allow it to open out to the left and then bring it back in. This is called a bent knee opening. The knee is bent at 90 degrees. I allow the leg to begin to open and then back in. So my goal is that my pelvis, my lumbar area, those bony landmarks are going to stay in the same position throughout the movement, and I'm moving freely, MJ, in the hip joint. I would say maybe about 10 repetitions on each leg. So I'm going to go ahead and move to my right side just to again demonstrate. As I'm moving the right leg freely, my left knee should be pointing up towards the ceiling. As I do this, I want to try to keep my shoulders pretty settled and quiet, not tense. So can I move freely with the leg through the hip joint while I'm able to stabilize the rib cage, the pelvis, the lumbar area? So again, as if I'm up against a wall, my head, my ribs, my pelvis are in a pretty good straight line while I'm able to move pretty freely that leg and the hip joint. So I've done each leg about 10 times on its own. You can finish the series by taking both legs and opening in either direction. So it's kind of like a good old butterfly stretch. But the idea is reaching, reaching, reaching to either side of the room, not worrying about how far it gets to the floor. But I open, 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 and then draw back in. All while, again, I'm keeping those segments of the trunk settled with gravity on the floor. We inhale to open. We exhale, draw to close. And again, with that, we can go for about 10 repetitions. So 3 things to think about until we meet or speak, communicate next. Thank you, MJ.